Welcome back. But first, before we launch into today's example, if you're new to the channel, I'm Trey and this is Vintage Four Wheel Daily. The idea is each day we highlight a special interest vintage SUV on popular auction sites and give you pointers from a buyer's perspective what to look for and what to avoid. We do this with the hope that our simple daily format encourages interaction with viewers on vehicle condition and ending price points. So let's get into it. Starting today, we have a 1993 Ford Bronco XLT. This one's got 141,000 miles on the odometer. It has a 4-speed automatic transmission. The truck is finished in a deep shadow blue metallic and Oxford white paint over crystal blue cloth upholstery. It's currently located in Birmingham, Alabama. We've got 20 hours left on this auction. There are 13 bids to 15,500, and currently there are 51 comments on the auction. There's a lot of interest in this Bronco. So let's start by looking at the pros. So mileage is relative, but this Bronco has reasonable driver mileage at 141,000. Yesterday, I reviewed a 94 Defender 90 with 38,000 miles, so it's not that low. Again, it's all relative, and Broncos weren't as likely to be garage queens. Now, keep in mind, the first owner put on the first 99,000 miles and owned it until 2007, which equals out to 7,185 miles a year, which is considerably lower than average. From a look at the initial pictures, this appears to be in really good condition for the age. It also has a very attractive two-tone paint with the deep shadow blue metallic and Oxford white exterior. Moving on to work done on the vehicle. The current seller replaced the throttle position sensor, drive belt, power steering gearbox, and muffler. They also completed a brake fluid flush in February 2022. Let's take a look at the cons. The auction lists blemishes around the exterior, and there's a crack in the driver door pocket and the speaker grill is stained. Really, what's listed in the auction is pretty minor, but we'll make sure to go deeper with our review of the pictures later in the video. So let's take a look at the Carfax. The Carfax shows 8 owners over the course of 30 years, all of which were in dry climates like California, Arizona, Georgia, so the risk of rust is minimal. It's definitely a plus. This should be very clear once we review the pictures in depth. So if you've watched the channel before, this is something we do every day. Before we get into the pictures, we're going to go straight to the comments. So we're in the last 24 hours with this 1993 Ford Bronco XLT auction. Taking a look at the comments, the first one is from the seller with 4,557 views and nearly 600 interested watchers. This should be a lot of fun activity. Less than 24 hours to go. This fine Bronco will go to one of you. I neglected to mention this is a no reserve auction, so whoever is the end bidder takes this one home. Oh, interesting. One of the commenters was one of the previous owners of the Bronco. Apparently did a lot of work on it to himself. Very cool. He says, I still have lots of miscellaneous parts, many progress photos, stories, YouTube videos. I'd be glad to discuss history with anyone. If I were a potential buyer, I'd actually take this gentleman up on this. There's no better way to hear than from the source directly. We've got comments asking if there's any odors. These are good questions to ask in bring a trailer auctions because they're oftentimes something that could be overlooked. Unfortunately, I've had this happen before purchasing a car online, not with a Bronco, just in general, but exterior looked good, interior looked good, all the pictures looked great. Then you get the vehicle home, you have it shipped, and turns out the prior owner was a smoker. Not fun. So I don't see any telltale signs here. Let's just jump into the pictures at this point. So as we've discussed in previous YouTube videos, it is really best in class to have at least 100 photos on Bring a Trailer. This one does not disappoint. It has 153 photos of this 1993 Ford Bronco XLT. Just starting with the first photo here, one of the things that stands out to me is just how clean this vehicle looks. It is 30 years old. The paint looks good. The shine looks good. Tires appear new, rims look very clean. At the angle I'm looking at here, I almost had to do a double take. While this is Oxford white, it actually appeared silver. My first car in high school was a 1985 Bronco XLT, blue and silver, so very, very similar. Now, my Bronco is nowhere near as clean as this one, but still, just these were great vehicles. I do remember one of my most favorite but least used features of my Ford Bronco was the removable hardtop. These are fiberglass, they can be removed. They're somewhat heavy, typically a two-man job, but it can be done and it's definitely fun. Another nice feature of the full-size Bronco is the swing-out spare tire carrier. Once you got that open, you could put the key in and put the rear window down. The auction did list exterior blemishes, but just looking at this profile here, I don't see anything to speak of. So one of the biggest changes in the 5th generation Bronco was it did see a facelift versus the 4th generation, which ended in 1991. One of the areas to examine on these older vintage SUVs is the front and rear lenses. It always gives you a telltale sign of excessive wear. And with this one, I'm not seeing any of that. I see. Right now we're at picture 27. I do see one of the exterior blemishes that they were talking about in the auction, but by all accounts, it's very minimal. Moving on to picture 29, I do see a small chip in the fiberglass roof. Like I said earlier, keep in mind this is a 30-year-old SUV. My estimation is that this fiberglass roof has been taken off. Once the seal is broken, it's never really the same afterwards. I do see what appears to be potentially a little bit of surface rust in the top. That's pretty common because, like I said, once that seal was broken, these were known to leak a little bit. You do have some minor pitting here on this rear view mirror, which is pretty common for a vehicle with 141,000 miles. Another major improvement with the 5th generation Bronco, it had automatic locking hubs. Previous generations, like my 3rd generation 85 Bronco, you actually had to get out of the vehicle. You had a manual locking hub. You really had to exert yourself. So really, this is the best of the best. It's a vintage SUV with modern amenities. So looking at the interior, the auction didn't list reupholstered seats, but these look great. Right now we're on picture 69, just continued pictures of the interior. Dash looks great on this one. Also, it looks like new carpet. Looking at the odometer, it does have 141,000 miles on it, but when we looked at the Carfax, we saw that the first owner put on 99,000 of these miles. So while this is a 5th gen Bronco, a lot of things don't change. My 85 had the fuse box in the same place here. This one does have an aftermarket deck, which is pretty nice. Just dust off your CDs. So pick 102, we're moving into the second row. Really big back seat on these full-size Broncos. So picture 115, you don't see this much in Broncos. One of the previous owners installed a full roll cage. You do have some scratching on the rear tailgate, but that is commensurate with the age and mileage. So moving on to picture 128, we've reached the coveted undercarriage photo. I mentioned earlier in the video that per the Carfax, this one had vehicle history in California, Arizona, Georgia, and now Alabama. It's very dry. It's always a nice added touch when the vehicle comes with factory books and manuals. So closing out the photo section, pictures 140 through 151 are service records, giving you peace of mind if you are a potential buyer. So to recap, highlights from this 1993 Ford Bronco XLT. Solid low driver mileage of 141,000 miles. Good overall driver condition. Great exterior and interior color combo. And most importantly, minimal rust due to dry climate ownership. So the pictures look solid. Let's get into pricing. For this Bronco, I used a comparison period of the latest year and limited the competition set to the 5th generation Broncos, which were year models 92 through the final year of 96. From a pricing standpoint, Bring a Trailer shows 38 completed auctions of the 5th generation Bronco. The high water mark for the 5th gen Broncos was an original owner 94 Eddie Bauer edition, which sold for $41,000 in April. It had 68,000 original miles on it. What I'm seeing as the most comparable auction is an extremely clean 96 XLT with 119,000 miles that sold for $22,500 in September 2022. That said, this current vehicle has what I consider a more attractive exterior paint, and based on my analysis of the numbers of the 5th gen Bronco, the market has started to trend upwards. So I would not be surprised if this one surpasses the $22,500 mark. So tell me, what do you guys think about this Bronco auction? Also, I'd love to hear your feedback on pricing and condition in the comments. You've heard me say this before, we're a new channel, and if you like the video, also make sure to like and subscribe. This goes a long way to inspire the creation of future content, especially since we have the goal of reviewing these auctions daily. Thanks again for watching. See you tomorrow for more vintage four-wheel drives.